All right. Anyway, we'll get into that. But before we do, we got to talk about Michigan and Ohio State. That was just such an unbelievable basketball game yesterday. The shot making, the intensity, the rivalry, the execution, the fact that we had a coach get caught on the phone taking a call from like the DoorDash guys because they showed up before the end of the game with the food delivery. Oh man, it's just unbelievable. Like what a basketball game. February. Oh, come on. John Mitchell just called me the February Grinch. It is a good slate for a Monday, but it's not.
I agree, John. John, I'm with you 100% on this one.
Yeah. Oh, both of you.
Three good games, and he's complaining. Three really good games.
Both of you settled down. All right. So, Michigan, Ohio State. What are your takeaways? How good is Michigan? How worried should we be about Ohio State? Give me all of the.
Not worried at all. Are you kidding? I'm more impressed with Ohio State today than I was yesterday morning. How's that, Rob? I really am. Listen. I never felt like Ohio State was in that upper echelon, even though we had to rank them there because they kept beating good teams. But to me, playing with Michigan, who I think has clearly established themselves as the third best team in college basketball. And oh, by the way, like they're put together, like just the way they're constructed, all of it on the court, off the court, the coaching staff. I just think they fit together. And again, I really like Michigan because everybody on their team makes an impact. Every single player on their team does something different to help their team win. I mean, obviously, Isaiah Livers is – I don't know who's the best player on the team. I would say it's Livers, Hunter Dickinson one day. Mike Smith was terrific yesterday. John D. Brown was great in the second half. Like, they've just got a bunch of dudes that all make an impact. And, again – I love Juwan Howard now. I love him. I don't know if he was on his phone, his notepads, whatever he was checking.
So to answer Sean's question, he asked, isn't using a phone during a game illegal? And yes, it is. The call that it was actually the director of basketball operations. The call he got was with 6 seconds left with the game, with Michigan up by 5. The game was over. And it was from the food delivery service. And like in talking with a whole bunch of people that have that job, what happened there is so far from uncommon. They were like, one guy texted me and he said, I saw the guy on the phone and my immediate reaction was like, well, Michigan's charter just got delayed. Another guy texted me and he said 80% of the games that I coached in, the food delivery got there before the end of the game and our Dobo had to deal with it with like a minute left. So it's
especially in this pandemic, right? It's obviously a lot different because there's no fans. So these guys, it looks a little bit more obvious when they're on the phone because you're only looking at their bench and you don't have shots to the fans or anything like that. So whatever. Who cares? I just thought it was funny. Somebody sent me that photo.
Hilarious. It's so funny that the guy's on the phone and it's like, what's he?
I don't know. Was I the first one that posted that photo, do you think, or no? Or was it already out?
I have no idea. I don't really
care. A coach sent it to me. Literally a head coach, a high major head coach sent me that photo and he's like, check this out. And I was just like, yeah, I'll tweet it out. It's funny. Like, it's funny.
And the Michigan fans are losing their minds about it, but whatever. Yeah. So my biggest takeaway with from this game, well, I guess it was kind of twofold. The first one is I'm kind of having like an internal self-debate about Michigan, right? Like I feel like I'm overthinking this, right? On the one hand, I question how good their point guard play is, and I question whether or not Hunter Dickinson can play on the perimeter. And I still kind of feel that way because Ohio State was able to take advantage of that a little bit. But, I mean, Mike Smith had 11 points and 7 assists. Eli Brooks had 17 points, hit 3 huge threes. And Hunter Dickinson was an absolute monster that made like 2 huge plays defending on the perimeter. There were 2 times when E.J. Liddell like beat him off the bounce. One time he was able to block the shot. Another time he was able to change it, and EJ missed a layup at the rim. And he stayed in front of him at the end. Like there was one possession with like a minute left where EJ Liddell tried to break him down off the dribble, and Hunter stayed in front and ended up blocking a jump shot. So maybe I'm just kind of overthinking this. And like
Liddell's the best player on Ohio State and kids.
Yeah, and like the thing is, so you have a team that plays hard. You have a team that's unselfish. You have a team that does all the cliche things that we love to tout, where we say, look, oh, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts or whatever. Well, that's true with Michigan, and they also happen to have like 3 NBA players on that roster. So like maybe I'm just kind of overthinking this, and part of it
who's the best NBA player on Michigan's roster? At the end of the day, in 10 years, who is
Franz? It's not even close. Like I don't even think
you're right.
I don't even think it's
a really good 3D guy.
Yeah, but you want to hear something crazy? How about this? Hunter Dickinson is 20 years old. He's a freshman. Franz Wagner is 9 months younger than him, and he's a sophomore. Franz Wagner is 19. Franz Wagner is younger than Evan Mobley.
Yeah,
by like 3 months.
I got it. I get it. I mean, I still like. I only put so much stock into the 19, 20-year-old. You know, like yes, you're projecting. Obviously, there's.
Well, no. Like here's the thing. Like part of the reason why John Beilein was so successful in recruiting at Michigan and finding guys that were under the radar was because like he was very much into the whole birthday thing. He was very much into the idea that like, hey, if we get younger guys that aren't fully developed yet, we can kind of, it's like a blank slate. We can work with them. That's part of.
He learned that from Stu Douglas. You know, he screwed up with Stu, and then he decided, you know.
Well, there you go. But yeah, I mean, Franz is just, he does all of the things that you want like a glue guy to do. Right. Yeah. Like he can make threes. He can beat people off the bounce. The ball doesn't stick with him. It keeps moving. He's a really good passer and playmaker. He can defend the rim. He's an on-ball defender. He can play big and he's tough. Like
I love him. I think Livers is going to be a really good NBA player too. I do. He's got the size. He can shoot it. He can guard. He needs to get better putting it on the floor, but I think Livers will be a really good NBA player.
He's I think he's going to be like for me, he's kind of like a second round pick. Probably a guy that could catch on with like a two-way contract, and then Hunter Dickinson will probably end up being like maybe a first rounder, maybe a late first rounder, just because he's so big and so dominant. But
it'll be hard. It'll be hard.
There's limitations to what he can do.
I think he's a second rounder.
And then, but like for Ohio State, I think. And tell me what you think about this, Jeff. I think the biggest difference that we saw between Ohio State and everyone else that we consider like the top 2 or 3 teams is that Michigan doesn't beat themselves. Baylor doesn't do things to beat themselves. Gonzaga doesn't do things to beat themselves. And Ohio State beat themselves. Part of it.
But they listen, it's one game. It's one game. They've won a lot of really good games.
It is. What did Chris Holtmann tell you about coaching Dwayne Washington? You remember that quote?
Listen, absolutely. He drives some crazy.
Before you go, just 3 things. What I'm referring to is Justice Suing with about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left threw a behind the back pass. That wasn't like the behind the back wasn't necessarily the wrong decision. It was just a terrible pass because there was no one there to receive it. They were down by 3 at the time. Isaiah Livers goes the other way, gets a layup and one. All of a sudden, it's a 6-point lead with 2:30 left. Game's basically over. Dwayne Washington twice in the final minute and a half on possessions where Ohio State absolutely had to get a stop. Got one time he got blown by like he wasn't even there by Eli Brooks that set up a tip dunk for Hunter Dickinson. And the other time, like he randomly doubled Isaiah Livers on the perimeter and it created a layup for, I think it was Shawnee Brown. Either way, like they got 4 free points because of bad decisions made by Dwayne Washington. And actually 7 if you want to throw in the behind the back pass by Justice Suing. And here's the thing. Good teams, like they don't make those mistakes ever.
Well, I think part of it is, you know, the Justice Suing one is kind of the most glaring, right? And to me, the biggest thing I question still with Ohio State is their point guard play. You know, that's the difference to me. Is I just, you know, I think Walker's solid, but like I think they're missing that high-end point guard at Ohio State who can just go get a bucket on their own. Now, Dwayne Washington was terrific yesterday in terms of shot making, keeping them in the game early when Michigan was making every 3. But ultimately, I'd like to see, and that's where honestly, I think Chris Holtmann's done wonders in his coaching career. Without a high level, has he ever had a high level point guard? He didn't have one at Butler. He didn't have one at Butler for 3 years.
Not really.
Right. He's never had a high level point guard. He thought he had one with DJ Carton. Like that was the hope was this team this year would have TJ Carton running the team and being able to make plays off the bounce for himself and for others. Obviously that didn't work out. So they've kind of planned B and C and even D this year with the freshmen that they brought in at the break. I don't know. I mean, again, I never wanted to put Ohio State in the top 5. I never wanted to. But you had to based on what they did, you had to. And to me, now I would say, like, I'm just more impressed with Ohio State after watching them yesterday, because when you look at their talent level compared to Michigan, you said, like, they shouldn't be playing with them. Michigan's that much better. Like you said, they have 3 NBA players possibly on their team. Ohio State might have one, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm with you. It was a great game.
Hell of a game, though. The game lived up to the hype. That was the great part of yesterday. It was the only game on Sunday. Actually, it didn't get enough publicity, to be honest. It didn't get enough hype. It should have gotten more nationally. It did not. And again, those people that hammer the sport, college basketball, hopefully they got a chance to see that, and just the way the game can be played. There are some ugly games. We know that. College basketball hasn't been pretty this year, but ultimately that